All right. So Hangouts is live. I'm going live on Facebook. Are you ready?
Yep, let's do this.
You're all right.
All right,
Facebook is on.
I'll share it as soon as I see it on here.
All right. There you go. We are live.
Oh man, who's ready to spoil? Who's ready to spoil the ever living shit out of this movie? Like for real, if you have not seen this movie, if you have not seen Avengers Endgame, do not watch this.
Yeah,
For real,
we are going
do
to
not
spoil.
watch this. We're going to spoil this movie very, very heavily. So do not watch this if you haven't seen the movie yet. Let me go ahead and share this real quick.
Go ahead, brother. Yes, but we are live. Baby. We are live finally. Yep, I'm looking at it on my phone, and yep, we all look good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it looks good. All right, there we go. Cool. All right, so there is. I think just like to start this off, man. Like first impressions, like how were you feeling going into this movie? Like what was the level? Like 1 to 10, what was the level of excitement for this movie, man?
Man, the level for excitement for this movie, oh my god, it had to be at a 10,000 out of like 1 to 10. Like I'm not even gonna lie, for real. And I'm not gonna. And what thing that sort of like messed me up is that it was this one comment, and for some reason, like on like I was watching, it was some highlights of like the final, not the finals, but like the playoffs or whatever, and some people trolling in the comments. Someone said, "Oh, Iron Man gets Captain American's shield," and then it was like something like that, and I don't know. So I was in my mind, I was like, "Oh wait, does Captain America kill Iron Man or something?" So that was in my mind the whole time, but it turned out it was fake. Some people were just trolling.
All right,
But
so you want to know like the worst part for me? Like so, background. I've seen this movie 3 times. I was supposed to go a fourth time last night, but after getting off work, I didn't feel like sitting in a theater for 3.5, or for not 3.5, but just 3 hours. And going into my first viewing on Thursday, I actually knew a spoiler already. I
oh,
kid you not. Now I will go ahead and tell you, it was not like a death or anything, but it was a plot point that I already knew.
okay,
And I'll go ahead and I'll kick off the spoiler alerts right here. Like again, if you don't want in-game spoiled for you, do not watch this because in 3, 2, 1, I'm about to spoil the fact that what I saw beforehand was Professor Hulk wielding the Infinity Gauntlet that Tony Stark makes after they get all the stones.
oh, okay,
So I saw that and I was like, okay, so they're going to get all the stones. Probably means they're probably going to go back in time and get them. And lo and behold, that's what happens. So I'm not going to lie. I don't know if there will ever be another movie that tops this level of excitement for me for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know if there will be because I thought that would be Infinity War. Because when me and you went and saw Infinity War last year, we thought, man, like, how are they going to top this? And we also kind of sat there, though, thinking with Infinity War that we knew a lot of the characters that got killed in the snap
yeah,
killed. We thought that most of them, if not all of them, were going to come back. And, obviously, with Endgame, that is what happens. Only characters that die in Infinity War that do not officially come back are Vision, Loki, and to an extent, Gamora. So
yeah,
Gamora obviously comes back in this movie, but it's a Gamora from a different timeline, not the timeline where Thanos sacrifices her for the soul or for the Soul Stone. So, like, I remember getting to the theater and just thinking, "Holy crap! Like, we're here!" Like, I was off that day from work, and I just kind of sat there all day thinking, "Good God! Like, we're actually here! Like this movie is literally the most hyped up Marvel movie we're ever gonna get, probably." And I told you about this before we went on.
mm-hmm.
Me and my friends got there like 9:15, 9:20, and this girl comes out of the theater and she is bawling her eyes out. And it's like, yo, this is about to go down. Like
It's about to happen.
we're about to like exclude the language here, like we're about to see some shit and like this stuff's gonna go down. Like
Yes, bro.
and
That was crazy. Like I
yeah.
was noticing the same thing. Like when I was like going to the theater, like the hype and excitement for the movie was like people were like I probably got there like 5 minutes before like the showing because I bought on Fandango, so I just skipped the line or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Man, I was like, okay, well the movie's 3 hours. Let me get some snacks or get some popcorn. No, the lines were so long for people who wanted to get like I've never seen a line for concessions that long.
Yeah.
So that shows you how hyped the movie was.
I think the only reason why I got in line for concessions, one is because you know how like a lot of theaters will have like the special cups or whatever that they sell for sodas for them, and they had them for Avengers Endgame. I've got mine right over here. That, and then of course, with movie theaters being remodeled now, a lot of them have the recliner seatings, and they have it to where if you order something that's like made like in the back, like a burger or hot dog or a pizza or something, they'll bring it to your seat now. So I hadn't eaten much all day, so I was like, I'm just gonna get like a pizza or something. It's actually really good.
That's dope.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I remember sitting there and the movie kicks off, and dude, again, this is where spoilers really begin. Like, this movie, the best way I can describe it is this movie emotionally tries to hit you from the very beginning.
Yeah, like
beginning of the movie, it is taking its shots. And I think that the best way to describe my reaction to the very first scene of the movie is the moment they showed Hawkeye teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow. Audibly, I said, "Oh no," because you knew what was about to happen. You know that at some point this is not real. This is not the present day. You know that this is right before Thanos snapped his fingers, and when he sends his daughter to go get her arrow out of the target, and wife's like, "Come on, it's time to eat. Enough practice right now." And he's like, "All right, we're coming." And he calls his daughter name and looks, and you just see the dust fly off, and you're like, "No."
Yeah.
And then he turns around to the picnic table, and his wife and his two other kids are gone. And
it's just him by himself.
And you're just like, why? Why did they? You're just like, oh my god! Like, I remember sitting there thinking, they're not pulling any punches with this. Like, they're hitting you. Like, they're hitting you straight away. What did you think about all that?
And I like what you said about that because, like you said, the emotional part, because I felt like they tried to hit you with, definitely that scene right there. I think that sets up the next scene to where you just see everyone getting, everyone's excuse my language, pissed off at Thanos because they were like, well, where are the stones? Where are the freaking stones? It sort of reminds me of Family Guy when Stewie's like, where's my money? It was tense. You know what was finna happen. And when you see Thanos was he felt like he was weak himself. He said, I snapped, and I snapped again, and the stones were withered away and they're gone too. And you could tell everyone in the theater was easily it was tense in the theater because everyone was like, oh no, what do we do?
Yeah.
So it hit you there.
Oh yeah, dude. We talked about before this again about the first just 20 minutes of this movie and how much it really caught me off guard because the Russo brothers who directed this movie told us, obviously, that in a lot of the trailers, 90% of what we'd seen was not past the first hour of the movie, or was not even past really the first half hour of the movie. Wow. So it didn't really dawn on me that, man, all this stuff that we've seen in the trailers literally happens in the first 20 minutes. It literally is they go after Thanos. Brie Larson as Captain Marvel is there with the Avengers already, and they rescue Tony and all that, and they're like, he used the stones again on this other planet. It's the only planet since he snapped on Earth that has shown this kind of cosmic energy. That's where he is, and it's because he used the stones again. They're like, we need to go get him. We need to go get him and bring everybody back by using the stones. And they get there. They get the gauntlet off of his hand. Well, not really technically off of his hand because Thor cuts his arm off. And Rocket turns the gauntlet over, and the stones are nowhere to be found. And you're just like, wait a minute, what now? And Thanos tells him, he's like, once they're used, with the universe perfectly balanced, the stones have no purpose. They serve only as temptation. And they're just like, Bruce Banner goes, that's a lie. You used the stones 2 days ago.
Exactly.
And he goes, I used the stones to destroy the stones, and it nearly killed me in the process. You're just like, oh my God, they can't bring everybody. They can't bring anybody back.
Not at all.
You're hit right then and there. You're just like, he knew they would try to come back after the stones. He knew about that, and he made sure they couldn't. And you're just like, well, shit, this man thought ahead. This man really, It's like, I can't. I think the funniest line is after Thor decapitates him, and Rocky's like, "What did you do?" And he's like,
"I aimed for the head.
I went for the head. I went for the head."
That was perfect.
I will say that to kind of transition, I think there are 3 characters in this movie that you see really significant character growth from. I think Thor is one of them because
I think so too.
Because when we first meet Thor back in his initial movie, he's this cocky, braggadocious, young warrior that is soon to be the king of Asgard. And the end of this movie, I've said this, Thor is the only character in the original Avengers that at the end of this movie, he is a completely different character. He is completely different. Iron Man pretty much stayed the same throughout the MCU. Cap stayed the same. Black Widow and Hawkeye stayed the same. Same with Thor. They all stayed the same. So,
Yeah.
or not same with Thor, same with Hulk. They all pretty
Yeah.
much are the same people. Thor is a completely different person at the end of the MCU. And this movie does a lot of that. When you see him later in the movie, he's got a lot of that anxiety and that PTSD kind of from, he could have stopped Thanos. He
Yeah,
could
and
have.
I think he gets that too because he like granted, like I said, Loki's still bad. I think he's a bad guy, but you see him had some remorse for him, when he was like, "Oh, you killed my brother" in the last movie. So I mean, he's probably still pissed about that. And also, do you feel like I feel like, and this is crazy. I didn't think that like they use Hulk good, like better in this movie because last movie he was absent, but.
Yeah.
Did did it feel weird that he was kind of like this like vegan like type of creature? That's
Well,
what it felt
okay,
like.
so that's actually again a good transition there because Professor Hulk's presence in this movie it's really really interesting because a lot of people thought are we going to see this character come to life in this movie and when Professor Hulk appears on screen for the first time you're just like you don't know
What?
how to react. You're like I don't get it. Like and I'm not going to lie, I damn near walked out the theater when this man dabbed. I damn near walked out the theater when this man dabbed. But I thought that it was an excellent character development. I think that there's a lot they can do with the character now moving forward with Professor Hulk, just because it shows a lot of depth in that
Mhm.
character now that maybe wouldn't have been there before.
And yeah, like, cause I feel like in the original series, like they went away from him being such like a smart, intelligent guy to where he's just brawn. He's not like like he didn't use his head much. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
got
in
you.
this one, like they sort of developed on the scientist side. Granted, when they tried, spoiler, they tried it the first time, the snap, and it didn't work. But it shows that he at least knew, that he has probably the next smartest brain next to Tony Stark.
Hey Darius, do me a favor. Make sure my volume is all the way up real quick because I think you
I
just got
can
a
hear you.
comment. Someone, yeah, somebody just said they really can't hear me that well. I'm trying to make sure everybody can actually hear me because someone just
Yeah.
commented on Facebook. I'm just trying to make sure they can actually hear me.
Okay. Let me. I'll look on my phone just to make sure. I know on like the laptop you're fine. Like I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, I got you. Well, yeah, I'm seeing the sound on here just fine, and it's saying that it's fine, but I don't know. Maybe it's just somebody else's phone. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But while you're doing that, I'll just keep on going. I think
Go
that once it throws up that it says 5 years later, it's 5 years after Thanos has been killed, and everybody's kind of just doing what they can to move on and get past this. Get past the what's being dubbed as the decimation, which
Mhm.
I don't know why it was called that because I'd never heard Thanos even say anything remotely close to that.
Right.
But I think that it is really, really interesting that Black Widow is kind of taking on this role of she's God, I'm trying to think of another
Right.
word this year. She's taking on this lead role of like trying to keep everything organized and trying to keep this Avengers group together, and she's doing what
Yeah.
she can, and she's talking with Nebula and Rocket on one screen, Captain Marvel on another, War Machine on another,
Hmm.
and then I'm missing somebody here. I can't think of who it is though. Um, Okoye. She's talking to Okoye, who's in Wakanda, and they're kind of just talking, and they're like, we're all
Hmm.
kind of spread out. We're all just trying to figure out what to do from now on, and then you have that little dialogue with War Machine where he's like, yeah, I'm in Mexico. Apparently, drug cartels safe house got raided, and it's a ugly scene here. Like it looks like they didn't even have time to pull out their weapons, and like what it's like, well, it's probably just a rival gang, and he goes,
Yeah.
except it's not. It's definitely Barton, and that's obviously referencing Hawkeye, who has since taken on the mantle of Ronin, and
Oh, okay.
that's him becoming this mercenary who he doesn't give a damn about bloodshed anymore. He doesn't care about trying to keep a mission going without killing anybody unless he has to. He doesn't care. He's lost everything, and you see that in that fight scene in Tokyo when Black Widow confronts him that he doesn't care. He's got nothing less to lose. Like, he's trying to get rid of the Earth of all the evil. He doesn't care how it looks. He's become a mercenary and really more of an anti-hero as compared to being a hero that he was. So I think that you see a lot of character development with Black Widow in these scenes because you see that, like, all this stuff that happened with Thanos has broken her. Like, she used to be this emotionless mercenary that didn't care about other people. She cared about herself.
Right.
And now she's like, I've lost damn near everything. Like, you see that emotion on her face, and it's this movie does something very, very well, and it's the character development throughout for a lot of smaller characters that are not Iron Man or Captain America.
Yeah.
You see a lot of character development, and I think that, you know, in this part of the movie, you see a lot of that with Black Widow.
Yeah, true. I think another character that got a lot of screen time, you know, and not saying it's a bad thing, but I think Rocket got a lot of screen time, and I think that's a good thing because I think as tense as this movie was, he played, you know, some great character or like some great tension relief as far as like using his humor.
100% agree. 100% agree. I think that you know, moving on, you know, that's the biggest, you know, revelation early on in this movie after it comes right after this is when thanks to the biggest coincidence of all time, you know, Ant-Man escapes the quantum realm because a rat jumpstarts the quantum tunnel that is now in the van. It's still in the van, but the van's locked up in storage. Ant-Man gets out. He manages to get to the Avengers after finding his daughter, who I just want to discuss this real quick. How old was his daughter in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Like 8 years old, maybe 9 years old?
Yeah, and I was like, dude, she looks 17 or 18.
Why does she look like she's 19 or 20 years old when only 5 years have passed?
Yeah, I was like, dang, like she didn't go through, like she's not 13 or whatever.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. Like, not even going front there. Beautiful, beautiful girl. The timeline just makes no sense.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, dude, she looks like she's 20.
Yeah. And so Ant-Man finally gets to the Avengers, and he's telling Captain America and Black Widow, he's like, this is going to sound crazy, but what if we could enter the quantum realm at one point in time and come out in another? What if we could go back to a time before Thanos and maybe try to undo a lot of this? And I think that's really, really interesting. I think that, you know, it kind of shows that the MCU has gone beyond just the threats on Earth. Now you're talking. It went from that to the threats up in space and in the universe. You know, like the ideas of like running the Accuser and Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos, obviously, the Skrulls and the Kree and Captain Marvel. You know, and now we're talking about going back in time and screwing up with timelines and stuff. And so, I just find that really interesting that how far the MCU has come and how deep a lot of this stuff goes.
Yeah, and man, like to iterate on that, like I said, the character development was literally like one of my favorite parts, even to the end of the movie. You know, when like whenever we like see, you know, whatever happens, because we'll get to that point eventually anyway.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of grow up in these characters, like definitely even like how you said, like Thor was a good one, and Hulk was a good one, and you know, like I think Hawkeye, like how you said, as Ronin, like I love that character. That's why I said they can take that character and do so much with it.
Yeah.
And I think he played his part well, even to whenever they have the fight scene, and he's running with the gauntlet and all that stuff. I even think, you know, he plays a good role there too.
Agreed. So after initially, you know, moving on, after initially refusing to help them because Tony Stark, he's now got a family, he's got a daughter who, by the way, cutest child ever in a movie goes to his daughter in this movie because, good God, she's adorable. I think one of the funniest lines in the movie is he's running the tests and stuff, like trying to figure out, like, could this work? Could we actually go back in time? And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to try this last model. Probably won't work. It's whatever. I just want to see. And it works. And he's just like, oh, well, shit. And then his daughter does the same. She goes, shit. And it's like,
oh, man.
And then she ends up extorting a couple juice pops out of him before bed. I love the line he said to her, you know, all right, go to sleep or I'll sell all your toys. I love that. I love all of that. All the
dialogue. Then he tells her, he's like, he says she likes me more than you.
He tells her, he goes, not to brag, but she said she loves me 3,000. you were somewhere in the 600 to 900 range. Tells that to Pepper. And I think that a lot of the kind of the more human aspects of these heroes, you see a lot of that in this movie. And the dynamic between Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow, it was great in Iron Man 1, it was great in Iron Man 2, it was great in Iron Man 3. It really shined here in the few scenes they were together. It really, really shined. And I loved that dialogue between those two. But after initially refusing to help the Avengers figure this out, he decides to help them. They get it figured out how they can use the quantum realm to go back in time. And they come up with a plan. They're going to go back in time. They're going to get all the stones. And they're going to bring everybody back. And then they're going to go put the stones back where they found them initially, which would ideally would reset the timeline to where, and I didn't think about this until after we talked about it with my friends. What happens if they put the stones back after bringing everybody back? Everybody stays back, and the stones stay destroyed, and Thanos is dead. Like, the timeline happens exactly how it would have happened, but the only difference is everybody's brought back. So the timeline would have stayed the same except for that one variable. So it's like the plan is ultimately seems like it's foolproof. I loved it when they're planning to go after the stones and they're talking about, the locations of where can we find these stones? What would be the best way to go about them? And they're like, okay, so Loki's scepter, New York. We can easily go there. And then they're like, all right, well, Doctor Strange, where was he from? He's from Toronto, right? No. And Hulk was like, no, he's from Brooklyn. Or he's from, he's from New York. He's from Brooklyn, yeah. And Black Widow's like, wait a minute, he's from New York? And she's like, guys, do you realize if we go back at the right time, there's 3 Infinity Stones that are in New York? And Hulk's like, shut the front door. It's one of those where I'm like, please, Marvel, next time, just you're PG-13 rated. You get one use of the F word. Just use it. Just use it. That would have been so funny. And so, they end up separating into teams. So make sure I get this right. Captain America, Iron Man, Professor Hulk, and Ant-Man all go to New York to go after Loki's scepter, the Tesseract, and the Time Stone, which right there would be the Mind Stone and the scepter, because that's how Vision gets made in Age of Ultron. You have the Space Stone and the Tesseract, and then you have the Time Stone with not Doctor Strange at the time, but with the Ancient One, who Tilda Swinton comes back and reprises her role as the Ancient One. Loved her and Doctor Strange, love her here. They go after those. War Machine and Nebula go after the Power Stone, which is on Morag, which is the planet that Star-Lord finds it on in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Trying to think what else.
Black Widow.
Thor and Rocket go after the Reality Stone, which is in the Dark Elf's Ether. So they go to Asgard to get that. And then that leaves Black Widow and Hawkeye to go after the Soul Stone on Vormir, which is where Gamora and Thanos go in Infinity War. And I loved every bit of this. I don't think there was a single part of any of the time travel that I didn't like. And I think
I loved all of it.
I loved the interaction after, and I'll get to it in a second. I loved the interaction of them going back in time and interacting with older characters. I loved the banter between Hulk and the Ancient One. And when ultimately, because as all plans go in the MCU, none of these plans go exactly according to plan. When things go wrong and they end up losing the Tesseract, Captain America and Iron Man end up having to go further back in time to go back and get the Tesseract at an earlier point, so that way that event doesn't happen. So I love the interaction between Tony Stark and Howard Stark, knowing obviously that Howard does not know who he is. And I loved that interaction between them. It was so good, so fulfilling. And that was hysterical. When he said, "What's your name?" Howard Potts. And it's like, huh? So they end up getting the Tesseract. They end up with the Mind Stone and the Scepter. So their stones are locked down. Thor and Rocket, after initially having a little bit of trouble with Thor's confidence. If you don't know yet, Thor in this movie, or if you just don't care about spoilers at this point, Thor, after killing Thanos, pretty much lets himself go. He becomes pretty much an alcoholic, and he drinks himself out of weight. And he's out of weight. He's out of shape. He's fat. Like, imagine what I look like is what Thor looks like in this movie. I can relate to him. So it's one of those where, like, Thor has seriously got this anxiety, and after overcoming an anxiety attack he has on Asgard, they're able to get the Ether. They get out of there.
Real quick, can we talk about the dialogue between him and his mom? bro,
Oh
that was beautiful.
God,
That was
yes,
so
that
beautiful.
too. I almost forgot about that. That was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
please
dope.
talk about that. Talk about that, dude, because that was awesome.
Yeah. So I think Rocket goes and he tries to steal it, and then at the beginning, I think Thor is like he was. I think he said like, "Oh no, this is the day" or something like that, or and
It's the
then
day.
but
It's the day that the Dark Elf killed his mom in Thor: The Dark World.
exactly, yeah. So basically, yeah, like I don't think he like I don't know if he wants to save her, but I think his mom basically knows at that point.
Yeah,
And yeah, so she basically faces it with, and then just the dialogue between those two was just something I ain't gonna lie, I loved it because like I said, they both knew what was gonna happen, but even though his mom probably knew that he probably had the biggest task out of both of them, and she knew she had to basically, if you think about it, sacrifice her life so things can go right in order for
yeah.
Thor to get the stone, and then Rocket comes in and just like, hey man, we gotta go, and they dip.
They do, and that's the thing, man. Is that when you could tell at some point she knows that he's from the future. She knows that that's not actually her son in the present in that time, and it is. It's almost heartbreaking because he's having to face his mom, and he's like, "I can save you. I want to save me." She's like, "No, what has to happen for you to
Yep.
be successful right now. This has to happen." And it's just it all culminates in obviously in him getting Mjolnir back, and it's because if you didn't watch Thor Ragnarok, he loses his hammer when Hela destroys it. So he gets his hammer
That's
back
right.
because they're back in time before that happened, and it's insane. It's like this man is seriously gonna have Stormbreaker and Mjolnir at the same time. Like that's crazy.
Man.
And so all that goes according to plan. They got 4 of the 6 stones locked down. We're good. But then things start to get a little hazier. Things start to get a little hairier as you move on. You go back to Morag, where War Machine and Nebula are, and War Machine's like, "All right, so we just gotta wait for this guy to get here." She goes, "Yeah, but we have to be careful." But in 2014, we're not the only ones going after the stone, and neither is he. And he goes, "Well, who else is after the stones?" And she goes, "Me and my sister and my father." And her father is obviously Thanos. So
Of course.
now Nebula has cybernetic qualities, and she obviously is recording that conversation because her eye, I think it's her left eye, is always
Yeah.
recording the conversations. Well, the Nebula of that timeline all of a sudden starts having issues with her eye, and that message plays in front of her, Gamora, and Thanos is like, "Wait a minute, who is that talking?" And Gamora's like, "Is that a second Nebula?" She goes, "No." He goes, "No, it's the same Nebula, but from a different timeline." And Thanos kind of knows what's going on.
Yep.
So basically, what ends up happening is War Machine, obviously, when Peter Quill, aka Star Lord, finally gets to Morag, and he's going through his little dance montage from Guardians Ones and all that. Well, War Machine knocks him out. They get the Power Stone. They go to get out of there, and Vision's particles work, and he gets out. Nebula starts having some issues with her, and then you find out it's Thanos and Ebony Maw tampering with it, causing it to short out and knock her out. And so she gets captured. Evil Nebula from the timeline takes that little that red like Avengers kind of piece that she had up here to
Yeah.
and she uses it to go back in time and to kind of infiltrate the Avengers. We'll get more to that in a second because then you have after this one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the whole movie, and that is Hawkeye and Black Widow going after the Soul Stone on Vormir. If you saw Infinity War, you know what they have to do to get the stone. And the Red Skull tells them, for you to get the stone requires a sacrifice. You must give up that which you love the most. And so they're looking at each other and they're both deciding, like,
We're thinking of different people. That was when I heard that, I was just like, oh no, something bad probably.
And I think about this and I look at this and I'm just like, this is why these two were sent to Vormir, was because they were the only two that have an emotional connection to each other. They actually care about each other. They are best friends and they don't want the other to die. So they're sitting there, and Hawkeye's like, fine, I know who has to do it. And Black was like, yeah, me too. And they're talking, and there's like, I think we have different ideas for who this needs to be. So Hawkeye kind of throws her on the ground, is like, tell my family, hey, for me. She counters him, stuns him to where he's on the ground. He shoots an explosive arrow to knock her back. He goes and jumps off, and I kid you not, Darius, when he jumped off, I said, man, he's actually gone.
I said that
And
too.
then Black Widow dives after him, catches him, and they're both hanging off the side of the cliff. He's tethered, he's got this little tether that he's holding on to, and he's trying to reach down to grab her so they can both go back up, but he can't do it and keep the tether attached. So, and man, dude, like I will tell you honestly, if after 3 viewings of this movie, this is the one scene that hit harder every time was this scene because the look in Black Widow's eyes as she tells him it's okay, let me go.
Man,
It's just it hurts, dude. It hurts. It's just
bad
like,
because and then like you could tell he didn't want to let her go because she ends up kicking her feet and then pushing herself off.
yeah. And so she ends up falling to her death. Hawkeye wakes up and he's got the soul stone, but you just tell the look in his eyes, he's like, I don't want this. He's like, I do not want this. This is not how I wanted this to go. And it's heartbreaking, dude. It's like
That's hard. Like
this is a man that has watched his family disappear. Now he watched his best friend die, all for the chance that his family could be brought back. And it's just they finally they all come back and everyone's like, holy shit, did that work? Like, yeah, they're all celebrating. And then Hawkeye comes back and they're just like, wait a minute, where's Natasha at? And he's like,
here, fam.
and he just looks at him. The next exchange between him and Thor out on the pier is probably also one of the most underrated parts of the movies where, they're like, Thor's just like, why are you all so sad? We're going to bring her back. It's going to work. Like, why are you acting like she's gone? And Hawkeye's like, she's not coming back, dude. She's not. She's gone. And then Thor's like, okay, no disrespect to you. He kind of says what a lot of us are thinking. He's like, no disrespect to you, but you're rather earthly. Up there in that realm, that's more. And Hawkeye's like, oh, really? Well, you can go find the red floating guy. You could talk to him about it and stuff like that. And it's just like, you can feel just the pain and the anger. And
there's a lot of tension there too.
And it's why I think that not only the actors, but the writers and the directors for this movie did such a good job because every scene has that weight to it. And I loved it for that.
It was beautiful. Man, like I said, that was literally because like she's been around for so long and then she's just gone, dude. And like I said, they can't bring her back because that's just not because she wasn't the withered, that's what I call it, the withered ones, I guess. So
well, it's also that the soul stone, for the soul stone to work, it required that sacrifice. Like, so that's why Gamora had not come back yet. Like, so it's just like that whole like probably 15 to 20 minutes of the movie was just so good for not just for character development. I've said that a lot in this video, but for really just the emotional weight of this movie. Like, it carried a lot of weight. Just seeing how much like losing someone that had been here since the very beginning, how much that actually did like affect everybody. It was incredible, really.
Yeah, that's true. It did affect everybody. And luckily everything played out. Like I said, I think they, like I said, they knew going towards the Soul Stone that the consequences they had to face. So I think, like I said, that was it's kind of good, but it's kind of bad that they thought of it that way. But they had to do what they had to do because goodness gracious, that was
it's hard to talk about sometimes too, man. Like, you're like, how do you put this into words? Like, one of the most emotional MCU scenes we've ever seen. How do you put that into words? I won't say the most because we still have the ending to talk about. But so, you're moving forward. They have all the stones. They put them all in the gauntlet that Tony Stark has built. And then they have the question of, okay, well, who's going to use it? Who's going to snap? And Hulk's like, it needs to be me. It'll kill any one of you. But a lot of the radiation that these stones emit once you use them is gamma. It's like I was made for this. Because a lot of what Bruce Banner was, all of what he was exposed to, what made him the Thork was the Hulk. What made him the Hulk was the exposure to as much gamma radiation as he was exposed to.
Right.
So he was made, he can withstand that. So he puts the gauntlet on, and it just starts like burning his arm. Like, this whole side of his body just starts burning.
It's bad.
And he finally summons just enough strength to snap, and you don't really see anything crazy happen until Hawkeye starts to get a call from his wife.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, it worked. It brought her back. Like, you have to wonder, like, is everybody else back? Lo and behold, though, one plot point that was not forgotten was the fact that the wrong Nebula was back. So she is over while they're all in there with the gauntlet. She is actually at the the quantum tunnel, and she allows Thanos to teleport his whole ship into this present day timeline. So Ant-Man's like, oh my gosh, guys, I think it worked. And you see Hulk just kind of look up at the sky as the shadow comes over, and Thanos obliterates the Avengers facility. Like,
bro,
this was destruction I don't think we've ever seen before. This is a level of destruction that was insane for the MCU.
Right. When I seen Ant-Man just like fall back, I was like, oh, this took a wide left, and it did. Cause I ain't gonna lie, when I seen that building blow up, I was like, at first I didn't know they were gonna get out of it, but then again, I was just like, they have to fight eventually, so they'll get out. But
yeah,
it leads up to the biggest point of the movie anyway.
Oh, for sure. So, the buildings, the whole facility's destroyed. Thanos tells, Nebula, he's like, all right, go get me the stones. I'll wait here. And, you've got Rocket, War Machine, and Hulk down kind of at the bottom of the facility. They're both they're all trapped. They're trying to get out. Ant-Man goes and obviously helps them out because he turns into Giant Man later to, lead, pick all the debris up. And so then Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor all see Thanos in the middle of that little like battlefield type place. And they're just like, Cap's like, what's he been doing? And Thor's just like, nothing. He's just been sitting there. He's just waiting. And so they're all just like, well, what are we going to do? And Tony's like, let's kick his ass properly this time. And Thor's like, I'm glad we're all on the same page. And he summons Mjolnir and Stormbreaker at the same time. And shout out to my buddy Kyle, because we had lunch earlier in the day. Kyle actually called that would happen. He actually called that he would do that. Funny thing, I actually said that I thought Black Widow would be a Dark Horse character to die, too. So it's kind of funny how we both actually called that stuff. But that happened, you're just like, he's about to throw down. Okay, I dig this. And so they go and they fight Thanos, and obviously the three of them are not enough. They're fighting, and Thanos has got them all knocked down at one point, and he's got Thor, he's got the Stormbreaker, like digging into his chest, and you just see Mjolnir kind of get picked up off the ground. It hits Thanos, and then it kind of goes past Thor's hand, and Captain America catches Mjolnir.
Bro, when that happened, the theater exploded. Oh my
dude, that was one of those, because like it was alluded to in Age of Ultron that he could maybe at some point pick up the hammer, because Thor's the only one that's been quote unquote worthy enough to pick it up. Yeah. And Thor just looks at him and he goes, "I knew it." And it's like it's just so funny because he says that, and then Thanos just stomps him back into the ground. Exactly. It's like, what the hell? So. Cap wields Mjolnir and his shield at the same time, and he seems like he's doing a lot of damage to Thanos, but then Thanos makes a comeback, and he, slices Cap's shield up, and I didn't notice this until I looked at it, but you remember in Age of Ultron, the vision that Tony Stark has in the beginning of the movie, it shows Captain America's shield broken in half. And it looks the exact same in this movie as it does there, and you're just like, holy crap, Tony Stark saw that. He saw that. He knew that would happen. And so Thanos is like, in all my years of conquest and all my years of conquering planets, it has never been personal. But what I'm about to do to your silly little world, I'm going to enjoy this. And he summons all of his armies. He summons, the 5 children of Thanos. He summons them. And it's just everything looks bleak until it doesn't. Ain't that right there?
This is my favorite. This is my favorite part of the movie. This like is what gave me chills, bro. Like, this is the best part of the movie, easily.
I'm letting you talk about it. Go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, once like Thanos like gets everybody set up, and then you just see the regular Avengers there, and then. So tell me tell me what happens next, because then I could allude to one of my favorite parts.
That's when Captain America is just kind of looking at all this, and he's just kind of the look on his face.
Okay, I remember what happened now.
And then his radio goes off.
Yeah, and then it's T'Challa.
And then
Huh?
Yeah, I think it's like on the radio. It's like Falcon saying, "Cap, can you hear us?" And you're just like, "Wait a minute, Falcon was snapped. Did the snap bring him back?" And then you start to see like a Doctor Strange type portal open up, and you're like, wait a minute.
And then
out comes Black Panther.
Yes. And then once you see him, and then you see Spider-Man, and then you see everyone from Thor's universe, and then you see It was literally everyone from every MCU
You
movie
see
ever.
all the sorcerers from Doctor Strange. You see
All of them.
Guardians. Freaking the Wasp pops in.
The
You're not
Wasp.
gonna believe this, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch this movie confirm. Howard the Duck is there. Howard the Duck is there. He is in a shot behind the Wasp when she appears. Pepper Potts comes in as rescue. Like, it's just like, holy cow! All of the Avengers are here.
Every one
And
of
then,
them.
and then finally, the biggest payoff that we have been waiting for 22 movies. You know, you finally hear Captain America say "Avengers Assemble," and it's like the theater lost their minds at that point, dude. Like they
Oh
lost their
yeah,
minds.
everybody was
It's
clapping
insane.
and everything whenever that happened. Like, oh, it was so good.
Yeah, man, for real. It's great. So yeah, it's just all that stuff is insane, man. And then just the last hour of this movie,
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever seen a battle scene done as good as this whole hour was. Just everybody fighting everybody, and the
yeah,
mini plot is like just like them trying to get to Ant-Man's van just to use the quantum tunnel to send the stones back. And Hawkeye's just running through the battlefield with this gauntlet, just running past everybody. And I love this little like kind of like football-esque kind of thing of them just handing the gauntlet off to each other. Like, you know,
it
he gets
is.
knocked down and T'Challa's just like, Clint, give it to me. And a dude, Black Panther got just OP during his
He did.
time. Oh, during his time as one of the snapped, he got OP because he just goes crazy, and I loved
Man,
every minute of it. So there's that. He throws it up to Spider-Man, and you know, finally Captain Marvel comes in and he gives it to her. And I think this was one of the coolest scenes of the whole battle was all the female heroes just at
yeah,
one
that was
time.
great.
At one time, just all of them just kicking ass. Although I will say this in watching this, I did say it like, Mantis, what are you gonna
Yeah,
do? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna put everybody to sleep?
like that's all she could do.
Like, and because you know, a buddy of mine said, "Oh, well, she can just use their minds," and I'm like, "Well, this is the nerd in me coming out." She even mentions in Guardians 2 that she's not a telepath; she's an empath. She deals with you know, emotion as compared to minds, so she can't just control minds. But that was just so cool to see all those heroes throw down. Okoye was badass too, dude. Like
Oh yeah,
Okoye, like they made her look badass in this movie just because the entire battle was insane. What else did you think about that?
man, the whole battle sequence, like I said, that was literally my favorite part. I would say another one of like the many parts in there that I think that I really like was just like when you hear Spider-Man and Iron Man just exchanging words back and forth. He was like, "Yeah, so Doctor Strange," or like he had these orange portal things, and then we just had to come. And he was just talking and talking and talking. Just
Yeah,
because I
for
love
real.
the interaction between those two are always one of my favorites. Just because it's kind of like a father-son thing or something like that. You know, you
Dude,
always got that vibe from Spider-Man and Iron Man.
that was such a cool feeling though. Like when Spider-Man comes and saves Iron Man and they hug, and it's just like I fully expected after, you know, the exchange they had in Spider-Man Homecoming where, you know, they're in the car and Spider-Man thinks he's going for a hug and he's like, Nope, nope, not a hug. We're not there yet. I fully expected Tony Stark to just be like, Yep, we're there now. Yeah, we're there now. But that was just that whole battle was so cool. And then it all kind of culminates, you know, Thanos destroys the quantum tunnel by throwing his
Yeah.
spear, double-edged sword, Darth Maul looking thing, like through the
And
quantum
Captain
tunnel.
Marvel was flying towards it, trying to
Yeah,
go into the realm, but
exactly. So then Captain Marvel starts fighting him, and you're just like, so is she going to be the one to take the gauntlet, snap, and get rid of that army? Like, is she going to be the one to do it? And you remember earlier in the battle when Iron Man found Doctor Strange, and he was like, "You said you saw 14 million futures, and we only won in one of them. Tell me this is it." And Doctor Strange says, "If I tell you what happens, it won't happen." Well, now, you know, Thanos is struggling with, you know, Marvel, and he headbutts her, and she doesn't move. And he rips the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and blasts her with it to get her off of him. And Tony just looks at Doctor Strange and he's like, he has this look of like, what else can we do? She's the strongest one. He didn't say it, but it's like it's the look on his face. And he looks at it, and Doctor Strange goes at him and he goes, and I think what we've come to believe, and I shout out to my man Matt for my boy Matt for saying this. What we think that is like Doctor Strange like is telling him is there's only one way this ends, and it wasn't with her. She is not the one that defeats him. Because if you think about it, Doctor Strange knew how all this was going to go.
Yeah.
And he specifically kept Tony Stark alive because he says early in Infinity War, if it comes down to you or the kid talking about Spider-Man or the Time Stone, I will not hesitate to let you die. And at the end of Infinity War, he gives up the Time Stone to save Iron Man. And it's one of those where it's like, Tony Stark was kept alive for a reason. So he goes and he kind of like grapples with Thanos for a minute. He grabs the gauntlet for a second, but Thanos just throws him off on him, and Thanos is like, I am inevitable. Clink, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and you're just like, what? I don't get it. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I was like,
and then he turns the gauntlet over and the stones are gone, and then you just see Iron Man hold his hand up and the stones go into his gauntlet, and you're just like, oh no. Oh my God.
That's what technology would do for you, man. That was the coolest thing ever. Because I was just like, how did he get it off his hands? But you got to think it's his technology, so he can easily just get it back on his hand.
Hey, you know what the coolest thing is? And this was pointed out to me. If you watch every movie Iron Man is in, like, he makes some kind of adjustment to his suits to where, he fights somebody and now all of a sudden it's, whatever they found that they could do damage to him while he's wearing the suits, he makes this adjustment and they can't do that anymore. So Iron Man 1, the initial suit that he makes has that kind of, when he flies up and like towards the sky, you have the icing problem. And none of his suits have that issue ever again. Iron Man 2, it's that electricity that, Whiplash uses to kind of shut the suit down. Tony makes an adjustment to where all of a sudden the arc reactor in his chest is not what's powering it anymore. He's got a different arc reactor for each suit. Right. Then in Infinity War, Tony kind of wanted to get rid of all of his suits while having his. In Infinity War, he's got the nanoparticles that form around that Tesseract, around like the arc reactor, and it covers his body. Well, it looks like the one modification we never saw him make was he made his final suit able to wield the Infinity Stones. And it's just insane to think about all that because that's character development on another level. It really is. And I love how it ends. The whole confrontation ends with him using the same line that he ended his first movie with, saying, "And I am Iron Man." And he stabs. Thanos disappears. Army disappears. I have an interesting thing I'll talk to you about in a minute about that. But man, his death scene was insane too. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, because Spider-Man was like, Mr. Stark, and then you were just like, oh no. No, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, for real, man. It's just, it's emotion on another level. Proof that, like, these are superhero movies. They're meant for a certain crowd, obviously, but just because they're superhero movies does not mean they don't have heart. And I think that is what a lot of people stereotype about Marvel movies, about even DC movies, is that there's no heart or emotion in it. And this movie kind of just takes that stereotype and just blows it out of the water. And I love it for that. And I think that scene with, Spider-Man, him saying, Mr. Stark, we did it, we beat him, and you can tell he knows what's happening. He knows that Tony Stark is dying. Yeah. He knows that. And it's just insane. I think the best line in all of it is when Pepper comes over and she goes, Tony, it's okay. We're going to be okay. You can rest now. And it's just like, oh, that hurts.
That was it right there. It's crazy because literally for that scene, for that little spot, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything with his last breath at all. Nothing at all. He just sat there and being quiet. I think it's sort of good because that they ended his last message with the last message of his first movie. So
yeah, agreed. And then the funeral scene's awesome. You really get an idea of how many people are in this universe now when you see all the characters there. And this is where I noticed something interesting. So I wanted to see if you noticed this. Did you notice there was a character, and it took me 2 viewings to really kind of notice this. I think I noticed it in the first viewing, but I didn't really think about it. What?
I want to see if we're thinking about the same character.
Yeah. So what character did you notice that wasn't there?
Oh.
There's a character that is pretty major that was not there at the funeral. Did you notice who it was?
Was it? No, Hulk was there.
Yeah, Hulk was there.
Thor? No, Thor was there too.
Yeah, Fat Thor was there.
Fat Thor. Who was not there?
Gamora. So I noticed this. I think I noticed this after the first viewing, but it really hit me on the second one was Do you think when Iron Man snapped and he got rid of all the people from Thanos' army and from that timeline, do you think that maybe it got rid of Gamora too?
You know
Because
what?
if you'll notice, so do you notice when Thor gets on the ship with the Guardians at the end of the movie?
Mm,
Uh, he's I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. Star Lord. It shows him looking at the screen. It says it's searching, and it's got Gamora's image under it.
yeah, I
And it's
noticed it.
like, so I'm thinking she disappeared with the rest of the army. And I think what me and Matt, we talked about it, and we were like, I think we know what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to be about now. It could be
Yeah,
about maybe trying to find a way to bring her back. So it's really it's little stuff like that where I'm like, okay, it's good to know that the MCU is not dead because there's still plots like that are still out there.
yeah.
Overall, dude, just incredible movie. And I will say what I told you before when we got on here and went live. 100% agree with the decision to not have a post credit scene. I 100%
Oh
agree
yeah.
with that.
I
But
think that was the right call. And back to the Gamora thing too. I think, yeah, like I said, it does leave window to see if she comes back with the next one or not. Because I was confused too. Because like I said, usually everyone at the end of Infinity War, like everyone that withered away or whatever, technically withered away again. Because like I said, Gamora did as well, and then everyone for Thanos' army. Because I think they did too at the end of Infinity War too. It was like all the bad guys, but she's a good person, but she was with the wrong crowd, if that makes
yeah.
sense. So
Well,
I
and it's
think,
funny. Well, if you think back to Guardians of the Galaxy, even like Gamora had a plan at some point to betray Thanos. So it's one
yeah,
of those where I don't know if we're going to see more time travel in Guardians 3 because obviously Adam Warlock is supposed to be introduced and he's big on time traveling. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. Uh, I don't. I think it's still kind of impossible for me to put just this movie into words. As big a fan as I am of the MCU, as big a fan as I have been, I've written about it before, and I mean, so it's like,
yeah,
dude, this movie had something that a lot of other MCU movies, if not all of them, didn't have, and it was finality. It felt like if this is, I said this, if we didn't get another MCU movie after this, I think after a while I'd be okay. I think I'd be okay with it. Like this felt like a
you mean
good
like
one.
another Avengers
Yeah, like
or
I think if this universe that all these movies have been set in, I think if they were done making movies for them, I think I'd be okay.
yeah, like I say, yeah,
I think I'd be okay.
I think they'll probably still keep Spider-Man for a while.
Well, I think no, that like there's a lot of plans in place. They're gonna have Doctor Strange 2. They're gonna have
Yeah,
Black Panther 2. They've got Spider-Man Far From Home coming out in I want to say July.
July. Yeah,
Um, and then I think that there's a lot. I think there's still a lot they have left as far as finding a way to incorporate the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. Uh, we've people here at the house have talked about incorporating villains such as Galactus, Kang the Conqueror. There's a lot. There's a lot that they can still go off of, but all I know is for sure is whenever Marvel does release this 22 movie box set for the Infinity Saga, I don't care if that bitch is $200. I don't care if that bitch is $250. I'm buying it. Like I'm buying it. Like that. It's this 22 film journey that they put us on, starting with Iron Man and ending with Endgame. There's never been anything like this. Just never.
it was beautiful. Goodness gracious.
My most anticipated movie of the year, because I'm sorry, I think that The Rise of Skywalker is a terrible freaking name for the new Star Wars movie.
I can see
Terrible
why.
name. But I, incredible job. Joe and Anthony Russo did an incredible job directing. Robert Downey Jr. We all know how great he is.
Enough.
I hope he wins an award for this movie. I hope he does. I don't know if he will, but I hope he does.
Yeah, I hope he does too because, like I said, it's gonna be the last time we see him. Well, as far as we know, it's gonna be the last time we see him for
It's going to be the last time we see him. Obviously, with the events with Cap at the end of the movie, obviously it's going to be the last time we see him. I said that my prediction would be I think that Spider-Man Far From Home begins with his funeral because he obviously goes back in time and stays with Peggy. And to quote what he says in the movie, he says, "I wanted to try some of that life Tony told me I should get." And so
Mhm.
I
So
love
that
also, I love that if we're going to get another Captain America, I love that it's going to be Sam. I
Falcon.
love that it's going to be
Yeah,
Falcon. I love that.
that's what I was gonna say. Like, so technically, would he be? So technically, in this timeline, he's Captain America, right? I mean, since he went back and stayed, like, I don't know. I was thinking that, like, does that make, like, during that time period, does that make Sam or Falcon Captain America technically?
I guess all we can do is wait and find out. That is probably all we can do. But
You said, well, my bad. It chopped a little bit.
I think that's all we can do is wait and find out. I mean, I really don't know. There's a lot of speculation we could do, but I don't know how much of it's going to be accurate. I don't know how much of
Yeah.
it is going to be accurate. But incredible movie, incredible job. I don't know if you heard, but the Russo brothers said this is probably going to be the last MCU movie they direct, and I think that's how it should be. I think they did Winter Soldier, they did I want to say they did Infinity War, they did Civil War, and I did an Endgame. I think those 4 movies alone, they've probably made enough to where they can both retire. So
Yeah.
I think for it to be their last movie, Cap's last movie, Iron Man's last movie, I think
It was
well
beautiful.
done, well done, worthy send off. Thank you for everything. So that's I think that's pretty much our thoughts on Endgame. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. Everything was pretty good in my opinion. I'm good. But I just want to say, literally, that last fight scene was my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh, easily, dude.
Sorry.
One of my favorite.
I don't get chills in movies, but goodness gracious.
So where does this rank as far as MCU movies for you? Where does this rank?
I don't want to be in a hype train and be like, oh, number one, but I'm gonna be in the hype train because it's just like you said, literally like that, like a way to send off Cap, a way to send off Iron Man. I mean, bruh, like I would say Infinity War. Well, I only think Infinity War has a shock factor. I think for the time being, for that span of like a year or however long till Endgame came out, I think for that span of a year, people were like, I think it's like it was the most shocking, but
Yeah.
the ending and shocking, just seeing Iron Man, the dude to sacrifice to save everybody else, it may top it because goodness, because he's been there since the beginning.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not really on the hype train. I've seen the movie 3 times, so I think I could say it.
Yeah,
I think it is. I think it is the best work that Marvel Studios has given us. If I had to put my top 5, it'd probably be Endgame number 1, Infinity War number 2, Civil War number 3. Which I'm telling you, when Civil War came out, I can't believe that a few years later I'm saying it's my third. It's number 3 in my top 5.
I remember we hit that top 5 list. Goodness gracious, it was like, oh
it
yeah,
was number 1 when we did our Black Panther list. It was number 1, man. And the crazy thing is that like I feel like number 5 for me is almost a tie between Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok because I don't want to not put one of those 2 in the top 5. Number 4 is still Doctor Strange for me because I love Doctor Strange. Though.
Doctor Strange was done perfectly. I love it.
Exactly.
If I had to, of course, the 1 through 3 would be Infinity War. You know, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Infinity War, Civil War, Endgame.
Yeah.
Then I would say Black Panther because I've not seen a MCU or superhero movie more than twice inside of a theater. I've probably seen Black Panther in theaters probably 4 times.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so that has to be up there just because I've seen it multiple times. And 5, oh man, it may be. I think Winter Soldier was pretty good too.
Winter Soldier's a great movie too. I agreed.
I love it, but it's so many that can go in number 5. It makes no sense. So I'll just leave that up for interpretation.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that is. I think it's all for this live though. I mean, unless you have anything else to add, I mean, I've pretty much said everything I need to say, and it felt good to finally be able to talk about this movie because it's been out for a weekend. I feel like, and this is how I am on spoilers. If you want to see a movie bad enough, if you are that big on spoilers, you're gonna go opening weekend. You're gonna go weekend. Like if you give a crap about spoilers, you'll go opening weekend so that way it does not get spoiled for you. I feel like once opening weekend passes, I feel like okay, like spoilers, as long as you give a spoiler alert, which we've done multiple times on this video.
Correct.
I feel like at that point, spoilers can be discussed. Like it's stupid. Like everybody that lives in this house has seen the movie now, so it's like, or anyone that cares to see this movie has seen the movie now, so it's like, I didn't worry about spoiling it for any of my roommates that are here. So it's like, that's my kind of take on spoilers. I feel like once opening weekend passes, anybody that wants to see this movie will have seen it. So, I mean, you see spoiler videos go up on YouTube like a day after the release, typically. So
a day after, like that's crazy. And like I said, I think like I said, the only thing that really kept me from seeing it opening night was literally that the draft was in Nashville. That was the only reason why I did not.
I can't blame you there.
Huh?
I couldn't blame you there. Going to the draft, I couldn't blame you there.
Oh yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's once in a lifetime, but it was once in the next 2 years because Las Vegas is having that bad boy next year, and I hope they send it back. So man, hopefully you can come with us next time or something, man.
Man, I think them having as good a showing as they did though in Nashville, I think it'll definitely be back. It'll definitely be back. Having 600,000 people there, man, like yeah,
It was
it'll be back.
bananas.
So I mean, it was that was a cool sight to see the city of Nashville represent like that. But as far as Endgame, those are our thoughts. Have you seen it? Let us know. We'd love to hear whatever thoughts you guys have. But as always, I'm Rusty Ellis,
Darius Horton.
and we are out.
Peace. Give me 1 second.